Hello and welcome to Pro Trader Strategies Market Commentary for Wednesday, July the 11th. My name's Eric Wilkinson, and some of you may recognize me as the Wolfman from CNBC, Fox Business, or even the Wall Street Journal for my commentary on everything from economic to geopolitical and market analysis. Please keep in mind that everything that we talk about in these market commentaries is not a solicitation to buy or sell any of these securities or strategies. At the end of the day, we're here to teach you some different strategies you can then implement into your portfolios, but please do that in your own way. The reason why I can't give you a recommendation on a particular stock or strategy is because I don't know your risk parameters. I don't even know what's in your portfolios. Therefore, what I'm doing could be counterintuitive to what you are already doing. Please remember that past performance of any trading system or methodology is not necessarily indicative of future results. All right, having all that out of the way, let's get it on with some economic data. Across the pond earlier this morning, we had Mario Draghi speaking, who is the ECB president. Not a whole lot being said there. But here in the United States, back in the United States, let's say we got core PPI, which is producer price index, came in at 0.3%, expected to be 0.2%. So that a little bit higher, better than expected. Good for the overall economy because that shows that they're allowed, or higher prices means demand, right? PPI month over month came in at 0.3%, expected to be 0.2%. Then let's talk about Canada. Overnight rate, they ratcheted that up to 1.5%, was 1.25, so up a quarter of a basis point. And then here in the United States, we got crude oil inventories. Crude oil's down. What do you think happened? It was a draw of 12.6 million barrels, expected to be a draw of 4 million barrels. So a major draw. The 1 minute chart on this, we can look at this 1 minute chart on the crude oil when the number came out. Basically, we got a huge spike, which one would expect on a 12 million barrel build, which was about 8 million barrels over the 8.5 million barrels over expected. So that would make me believe it was going to go up and test that 75 handle. But we slammed back down as it took out all of those longs trying to trade off of that number. And then once the longs saw that they were out of money, basically a puke fest, down to where we are now. I actually think that the crude oil is going to rally heading into at least next Wednesday's crude oil inventory numbers. So I think that we're going to see this bit of a bounce, a flush out of some of those longs from the original trade, and then we're going to snap back. And then later on today, we have Fed Governor Bostic speaking. So keep your eye out for that. I don't know. And Williams is also speaking. So a lot of Fed governors talking, and we have a 10-year auction later on today. So I don't think those things are going to be real major market movers, but I do expect crude oil to start moving higher later on in the day, as it's really down quite a bit on a major drawdown in crude oil. So I would expect this to start rallying probably throughout the week as people start seeing that data point. All right, gold coming off quite a bit today. You know, just gold has fallen out of love since Putin stopped buying. So, you know, this was where Putin was doing the buying, supporting it. And then once he stopped buying, you can see the whole market kind of just fell out of bed. All right, we've got Bitcoin off just a little bit, still above 30 or 6,300. You know, just not any volume, you guys. It's really hard to say that this is a bottom when you don't see a lot of participation coming in and accepting these levels. Now, we are seeing this volume node build out, but that has to do with the time as well, that trade is building up at that low level. So, you know, over time that could build it up to add some support, but I think we need to see a bit of a frenzy come in there. All right, bonds. Really nothing to see here, up about 7 ticks, but that's probably because the equities overnight were down quite a bit, and they're still holding a little bit, the bonds are still holding a little bit of that value based on a little flight to safety, if you will. We've got the VIX moving higher today by not even quite a point, but in the 13 handle, 13 and a half. What we were talking about with the Dow Jones yesterday, remember we were talking about with this point of control where the most time and volume has been spent, lines up with this 23 Fibonacci extension level. that normally would act as a support and resistance level. But right now, because it's lined up with that point of control, we're going to see it toggle back and forth. It's not going to act as much of a support and resistance as we would normally see it, because there's so much volume already traded in and around those prices. So that swash, let's say, would be a little bit wider than normal rather than just kind of nailing that number, if you will. But it's right there, and we're trading back and forth above and below that number. I think I could almost remove it at this point. The NASDAQ moving higher, it looked like a confirmation right off the bat as soon as the overnight trading started, and throughout the night we traded down towards the lows. But coming into today, that overnight inventory getting flushed out and moving very close to unchanged compared to what we were, but down 42 ticks right now off of yesterday's open. As a matter of fact, a couple of minutes ago when I was setting up to get ready to do this video, that was a green bar. It was still in negative territory because that's where we opened, was in negative territory, like almost a bit of a gap to the downside. Now we've seen this green bar, actually it's right there at unchanged, but you can see it toggling back between red, unchanged, and green. It's right there, down 16, almost 17 points on the day. Looking like more of a continuation pattern. If we go back and look at that real quick, I want to show you something. If we look at this chart real quick, a lot of times when you get these two counter-opposing dojis, that could be a continuation pattern. If we settle down towards this lower area, that's going to look like a topping pattern. So you have to wait to the end of the day, and I'm kind of in that camp where I'm kind of holding off right now. I haven't added anything to my portfolio because I want to see what direction the equities really want to go. And this is what I was talking about with the opening of the overnight session, just slammed down dramatically. And then throughout the night, overnight inventory started getting flushed out coming into the day's session. We're starting to see a little bit more bearishness come into the market now that all of those shorts have been flushed out into the day trader or the day session's hands, if you will. And we might start resuming our downside here. But that's about it. I haven't really done anything. I'm keeping a real close eye on TLT and a couple other ones, Costco, but haven't added anything at all to my portfolio as of right now. So I'm just kind of in a holding pattern right now. I don't want to get too aggressive before I see what the market is giving us, if you will. All right, that's about it. Tomorrow's webinar is going to be on the short put, on the broken wing put butterfly. So we're going to eliminate any directionality to the upside. So this is a great strategy in and around these type of markets where you're a little bit worried about one side, but not necessarily the other. But in that, your assumption is we are going to stay market neutral relatively, all right? So, but you worried about that upside, okay? And I'm going to show you how to set that up in tomorrow's webinar. Yes, you can go online and figure out how to do it, and I implore you to go out there and figure out how to do it online. And then watch my webinar, because I go in and tell you the strike locations you need to increase your probabilities of success with this strategy, all right? So go to protraderstrategies.com and sign up for that. I also tell you what kind of environment you need to be in. They're not going to tell you that online either. All right? So if you can't take that, take it easy.